Well, good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry about that. Could be morning for you still, depends on where you're at. Hopefully, everybody is doing well today. Trying to get everything all done right here. It looks like we're having a few problems. As usual, with this thing doesn't want to work properly. We'll try that again. All right. So today we're going to talk about Vulcan Lokring. Okay. Can I use Vulcan Lokring for an R-134 refrigerator? Of course I can. Can I use it for R-600, which is highly flammable? I would suggest it. I would make sure that I was using Lokring. To me, it's easier. There's a whole lot less tools to carry in. To me, it's just a win-win if I'm using it. Okay, so the repair of refrigeration appliances with Lokring. Okay, the advantages of Lokring versus brazing. Okay, so suitable for flammable refrigerants. I would tell you that if I am bringing in a torch, I am just go ahead and make sure that I have all of my insurance paid up, because sooner or later you're going to have a problem, and you're probably going to have a damage claim with you. I know that I have several technicians have told me, "Oh, I use it all the time. That's the only thing I use." Well, the problem is that a lot of the times, the oil in the compressor actually holds some of the R-600, and I can actually, if I'm not very super careful, and it's not my lucky day, I can cause fire. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit later on about what we need to do. So one of the things about Lokring versus brazing, it's customer friendly, on-site service with a reduced logistics cost. It's clean, fast, and reliable. Okay, assembly possible at high combustible areas, even with heavy foot traffic during business operations. So I don't have to stop everything and separate it and take it outside. I can do it while everything's there. Okay, it's a simple assembly. I don't have to have a power connection, and there's no heavy brazing equipment that's required. I also don't have to have. I do not have to bring in my extra box of brazing tips and everything else. There's no brazing related quality problems. So if you've ever had one of my classes on the proper use of a torch, there are several that are out there. If you notice the cutaway on the top one, if you notice, you can see that on the inside, even though I have put this back together, and I have a lot of the guys now don't even use a they don't use a flux. I always have ever since I've started, and that was almost 40 years ago. Well, actually, it was over 40 years. It was about 43 years ago that I started, and I've always used flux. It makes it nicer and neater, and my joints stick better. But if you look at this one on the top, you can see where it didn't really. I could have problems in that area later on because the solder didn't suck all the way down like it should have. And then if you look at the one with the lock ring on it, you actually see that there is It's nice. It's neat. I'm not going to have any leaks as long as I've used lock prep that is current. It's not over a year old. I won't have any problems. This is a nice solid joint. It was all the way around. It looks exactly the same. So this is a really excellent lock ring cutaway. All right. So the areas of application with Lokring are just limitless. Okay, there are endless possibilities. There are I can actually take and use an aluminum connector and actually fix something in the evaporator that's aluminum, and not have to worry about whether it's gonna leak or something's gonna happen. We all know that there are manufacturers out there that are known with having a leaky evaporator. So I can actually fix that leaky evaporator. So that's another advantage. Number two, that's a first time complete. I don't have to come back. If I find a leaky evaporator, I have to go and order the part, and everybody knows that by the time that I come back, I've lost money. Okay. Number one, I had to find the leak. Once I have found the leak, I have to go and order a part that because I don't carry evaporators on my truck, because I see way too many. So it's just great for me that I can fix an evaporator right there on site. Okay. Household refrigeration appliances. You can, a refrigerator, a freezer, a wine cooler. It works even for several of the ready to use refrigerator combinations. Okay, the cabinets, the bars, the lockers, the chillers. It'll work on an ice machine. Will work. So catering. So we got counter cells, flow through coolers, portable cooling systems. I had a kegerator, and I could have worked in my kegerator with this. So, like I said, there's endless possibilities. There's all kinds of possibilities that I can do, and so many of the things I can do, I was unable to do before. So, the functional principle of the Lokring connection. We're going to sit down and go through the function connection. Okay. So here, if you look at 1, 2, 3, that corresponds to the Lokring connector that's on the right side. You see number 1 is the joint. Okay. Number 2 are the rings. Number 3 is the lock prep. Okay. I can't tell you enough. It cannot be over a year old. If you have a lock prep that is over a year old, you need to throw it away. There is no guarantee that it is any good after a year. You're throwing a prep shoot up, and the last thing you want to do is have to go back out and fix it. Okay, so that is the basic components of a Lokring connection. Okay, so if you look at here, A, B, and C. Okay, A is the insertion area. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that I put my tubing all the way in until I reach the stop. Okay, then B is the stabilizing and sealing area. Okay, and then C is the main sealing area. So I'm going to put my lock prep on, okay, before I slide the joint on. I'm going to put it I'm going to slide that joint all the way in. I'm going to spin the lock ring connections, and that seals it all the way around. Make sure that I do it. They tell you just to turn it a couple of times. I turn it at least twice around. Okay. That's just me, because I like to make sure that I'm not going to have to come back and do this all over again. Okay. Repair possibilities with Lokring. Okay. So I can replace a compressor. I can replace a dryer. I can replace the charging tube. I can repair a leaky brazed connection. So if I come in and I find a leak somewhere, I can use Lokring to fix my leak. Okay. I want to make sure that I have no problems and the customer is totally happy with my work. Okay. So I don't know if you know a whole lot about the symbols. CU is copper. Um, uh, so if you look at the first one, that's a copper to copper connection. So what am I going to use? I'm going to use my brass connector, and I'm good. If I go copper to steel, again, I'm going to use a brass connector, and I'm gonna cut it and make sure that I'm good all the way across. If I go steel to steel, I'm still going to use my copper connector. Okay. Out of all of those, I want to make sure on any of these that I do that I have inserted the tube until the stop. And then once I do insert the tube, I take and insert the other side. I roll it around two turns, and I should be ready to use my sealer. Okay. Then the next one down is aluminum to aluminum, and I'm going to use the aluminum connector. If I have an aluminum to a brass to a copper, I am going to use the aluminum connector there. Once again, if I have an aluminum to steel, I'm going to also use the same fitting as I do for the aluminum to copper. Okay, so what you have always seen on this is that there are brass fittings and there are aluminum fittings. I want to make sure that I use the right fitting, because if I don't, if I use a copper to copper and use an aluminum fitting, it may not work. It may have a leak later on. Once again, you got to make sure that you're using the proper fittings. They're the proper size, and also that that I'm using up-to-date Loctite. Okay, so here is the starter kit. This is not the starter kit that they have any longer. It's not. That's not what whenever you order one, this is not how it comes. It used to come in a case that is I forget what it's called. Anyway, the guns that I carry, and if I have to carry them on a plane, it's the same case. It's a very hard case that doesn't have a penetration. It takes a lot to penetrate the case. This is a metal case. The one that you see today is, depending on how old it is, the brand new case. They have gone. The case itself, what cost them? I think they told me they cost about $50 for just the case itself. That's where part of the company, where the cost of the unit came in, because you have to, all of the parts that you have put in there, you have to balance them out so that I have a product that I can use and is still affordable. So they have gone from that case that's almost an impenetrable case to a soft case. I actually like the soft case just as well, probably even a little better. So for the perfect start in the world of repairs with refrigeration equipment, what comes in this case? All right, I get a hand assembly tool. I get an extra set of assembly jaws that are different sizes. because we're going to get on late on down. We're going to get into just exactly the hand assembly tool. If you're using a larger fitting, you may have to swap the jaws out. So you want to make sure that you're using the right jaws. Okay. The other thing is I have to make sure that I have the lock prep and that my lock prep is in date. It comes with sandpaper. It comes with dryers. It comes with straight connectors and straight reducing connectors. They still come with the same. The case still has all of those connectors in them. And then if you want to, you can buy the connectors so that let's say that I'm using a 3/8 to 3/8 connector, brass. What is my and I'm using out of the whole kit, I'm using those all the time. I can order either just that set. So I think it comes 10 or 5. And if I want to order the whole kit, a replacement of my whole kit, I can actually do that also. They have it so that you can actually get what you need. You can get it from a single all the way up to a 5-pack to a 10-pack. I don't think they've gone to a 25-pack. Although probably if I were to look into the future as it becomes more popular and torches go farther and farther out of the way, if I'm going to be doing a lot of sill system work, I'm probably going to want 25 at a time. So you see here is number one. Is the liquid line dryer. You can see the connector there. So if I look at my connector, I see that I have a steel connector and a copper connector. Okay. So number one is my copper that goes into my dryer, and then the steel connector at the top. Then I have a dryer, which is a capillary tube, which is number 2. That goes to the bottom of that filter dryer. And then there is a reducer that goes down into a cap tube. And so that's my filter dryer to my cap tube. That's where I'm going to have one of those. So we're going to go down and we're going to keep moving along. Okay. So repair possibilities once again. If you see the one on the very top, you're going to get those out with your kit. That's what the dryer looks like with your kit. It's designed for a Lokring application. It's for any HC and HFC refrigerants. It protects the refrigerator circuit against moisture, acids, and dirt particles. So it's filled with decadent, and that's an XH9. You're going to have to pardon me. I'm starting to stop up. Evidently, something here in the immediate vicinity is causing me to stop up. Okay, so the next section that we're going to deal with is the capillary tube to the evaporator. Once again, this would be my cap tube, which is copper. May also be aluminum. So, and I'm going to need an aluminum connector because my evaporator is aluminum. So I'm going to have my aluminum connector that's a reducer. Okay. Then for the fitting number 4, that would be the one that goes down to the compressor. Okay. And to the evaporator. That right there is the evaporator section of that is copper, and the suction line is aluminum. So I'm going to need my aluminum connector. Okay, so this is my condenser. Okay, my back plate condenser. The liquid line is number 5. So that would be that would be the steel to copper. So that would make it a hot gas line to my side plate, which is number 7, which is the one that's down on the bottom. Both of those are steel to copper. So I'm going to use my copper fitting, my brass fitting. My number 8 is my side plate condenser. If you look on the right side over there, you can see exactly where it is. And of course, that's steel to steel. So I'm going to use that connector for a steel to steel. Okay. So, my compressor. If I have a charging tube with a stopper, okay, that's going to be a brass, which is number 8. You see it down there on the bottom. If something happens and I get my charging tube is bent and I can't get in it, I can actually. This is a fitting that is designed for me to be able to put a Schrader valve on the top of it, so that I can get it. I can get my complete. Okay, so that I've got my charging tube with a 1/4-inch Schrader. That's copper to that's a copper, and it goes right into it right there. You can see it on the number 8. Okay, number 9 is the compressor to the hot gas line, which is copper to copper. So we're looking at a brass fitting. If I have a suction line compressor and I want to put a fitting on that, I can use this same fitting right here for the suction line to the compressor. Works great. Okay, so some of the technical specifications. For all of our type of work that we do, we're going to be using type 00 connectors. Okay, that's for our refrigerators. Once we get into a larger set, we'll have to you'll have to come to the other class, and we'll talk about the connectors for those. Okay, the UL file number is an SA 12004. My standards is ISO 14903. Okay, my maximum operating pressure is 300 psi. My admissible refrigerants are HFC, HC. It's not suitable for an NH3 refrigerant. The compressor range will go between minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit up to 302 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, my tube range can go from a 1/16 up to a 3/8. If it gets over a 3/8, we have to go to a different 00 setting. Okay, all of these have to have a wall thickness on it, which all of them do is 5 millimeters. Okay, so our test procedure. These are tested and tested and tested. Okay, so the unique test lab is performed tests in accordance with ISO 14903. Okay, they do a tightness test before they do the load test. After they do the tightness test, they do a fatigue test. They do a freezing test. They do a vibration test. Then they do a pressure temperature cycle test. We're going to go into each one of these a little bit as we go on down. We have a vacuum test. We have, again, a pressure test that's a static pressure. Okay. Then we have a tightness test after all of the load tests have been done. Okay. So they test it before, okay, to make sure the tightness. And then after they get done with all of these tests, they test it again. They make sure that it hasn't blown up or shrunk or anything else. Okay. So our test parameters, we have 14 test samples. They're not necessarily for making the test. Before starting the test, the following parameters need to be defined. Our maximum temperature, a minimum temperature, and our maximum operating pressure. Okay, so their tightness test before the load test, what they use helium for that. So if they have a leak, everybody thought it was thinks it's really funny because they're using helium. Our temperature is 20 degrees Celsius, which transfers around to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. My pressure difference is 145 degree, 145 degree. I'm sorry, 145 psi. Okay, so my psi, the difference in it is 145. Okay, our maximum leakage rate is super small, which is 7.5 to 10 to the -8 millibar. Okay. Our fatigue test that is being done on these over in Germany, they do 250,000 cycles between maximum operating pressure and the atmospheric pressure. Okay, if you look on the right, it's showing you there are five of the samples right there that they're testing. Okay. Oops, sorry about that. So step one, the test samples are submerged in a container underwater. Pressure above the water surface is reduced to below 500 millibars, which is 7.25 psi for 10 minutes. The air disappears from many of the cavities while restoring normal ambient pressure. The cavities are filled with water. So the test samples are placed in a freezer for at least 30 minutes. The test samples are placed into water at room temperature to thaw for 5 minutes. This is step one and step two for the freezing test that we talked about. Okay, our vibration test, 2 million load cycles. The frequency is up to 200 hertz. That's pretty shot. That's a pretty strong vibration. Okay, your amplitude depends on the size of the connection, but the main thing there is they're doing 2 million load cycles. They're not just doing this once or twice, and this is what it has to do to pass. Okay, so our pressure temperature test cycle, our step number one is 50 cycles of this, alternating temperature between minimum pressure and maximum temperature. When maximum temperature is reached, test samples will be inflated to maximum operating pressure for 2 minutes. Then once they do this test, we're going to do a 200 cycle test. This is the second step in this test. So we have a maximum temperature is held. The pressure alternates between atmospheric pressure and maximum operating pressure. Okay. Then we have a vacuum test. The duration is 1 hour. Okay. So this test goes on for 1 hour. The temperature is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The maximum pressure rise is 0.2 kilopumps. Okay. Then we go to the pressure test, static pressure test. That lasts for 1 minute. It's 5 times the maximum operating pressure or the theoretical maximum load of the tube. Whenever they do these, they actually will blow. They have had the tubes blow, which is shown right here. Okay. The lock ring connection has always been found stronger than the tube itself. It's the tube that splits, not the lock ring connector. Okay. Then at the very end, we go back to the tightness test. They're gonna go back to the helium. We're at 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and we do 145 psi pressure difference. Okay, our maximum leaking rate is 7.5 times 10 to the negative 6 millibar. Okay, our lock ring assembly tools. I will tell you this: on down from this portion of the class, we're going to go back and we're going to talk about our lock ring assembly tool. This is the manual tool. Okay, this tool is an HMRK-V. Okay, this is the manual tool. They make an electric tool. Okay, the electric tool is. I'm sorry if you know Reggie. This is the one that you need to get certified on. But if I'm a technician, I'm going to spend the extra money. If I'm going to do this at all, I'm going to spend the extra money for the electric tool. Okay, it is so much better. I basically stick the jaws in. I rotate I hold the jaws into place, and I mash a button, and it does everything. There's none of this clamping, and I have to keep pumping the tool. But this is to learn. This is what you need to learn on. All right. So my specifically developed for lock ring. It's developed in Germany. Okay. Oh, it is right there, Germany. Okay. Patented lever mechanism for assembly with minimum effort. It's real, like I said. I can use it left-handed, right-handed. The jaws will actually move so that depending on if I'm left-handed or right-handed, so that I can get into it. Some of the ones that you're going to get into are a real pain in the neck, and you may have to split it so that you're having to do it like 2-3 clicks at a time. But you can do it. Is it the easiest thing in the world? Once you become fluent with it, absolutely, you'll never go to anything else. Okay. The assembly jaws are easy to change for different size tubes. We're going to go over that, like I said before. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. So both handles they can bend for hard to reach areas, which is what I had just talked about. Okay. This is our assembly jaws right here. The lock room tool HMVR and the HMRKL hand assembly tools. They're double-sided for the lock ring 00 connectors. They have MB8 for tube diameter, which is 1/16 to 5/16. If we have an MB10, that will take me from 9 to 11. So that's basically 3/8. So I should be set to go. Now we're going to talk about our lock prep. Okay. The lock prep that we are going to use for our type of refrigeration is called Lock Prep 65G. Okay. Lock Prep 65G. What is it? What does it do? It compensates for any unevenness in the surface tube. in the tube of the surface tube. It hardens under oxidation, and if it is in contact with free metals. Okay, it stays elastic. It ensures that every lock ring connection is hermetically sealed. You want to make sure that it's always sealed. So assembly instructions for the lock ring connectors for type 00. Okay. Now, if you look at the diagram on the left, I've seen guys that do this. Like I said, I'm an old timer, and I actually prefer and don't like for somebody to use the method to the left. I prefer the double overlock, and that, to me, that makes sure that I've got everything done, and that I have no problems. So I'm going to clean the tube ends in a rotational motion to ensure that they're all clean and free from paint and other surface impurities. It's easy for somebody to say. Okay. Whenever I get done, I'm going to top, depends on what size the tubing is. I will go somewhere between half a drop to 2 drops. Okay. So I'm going to apply my lock prep 65 to the tube ends. Once I get done and I drop my tube end in there, okay, I'm going to insert both tubes into the lock ring connector, and the tubes reach the inner stop. There's a diagram of that down on the bottom. Okay, I'm going to rotate the lock ring connector through 360 degrees to distribute the lock ring 65 evenly. Like I said, I do it twice. That's me. I respect the connection curing cycle time. Okay, so as my temperature goes up, my cycle time goes up. As my temperature goes down, my cycle time goes. It has to be there longer. Okay, so if it's at we're going to see the chart here in just a minute, but if it's at like 50 degrees, I have to wait almost 40 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to press the tube connector to the rings of the lock ring connector. You actually will hold this right in between with your finger. Okay, and hold the jaws in my hand. I'm going to squeeze it until you see how it's so far apart. I'm then going to squeeze it till I can squeeze it all the way through. I'm going to make sure that I get it so that I squeeze the connector to the very end, and it should look just like that one right there on the very bottom. Okay, I'm going to respect. Like I said, I'm going to respect the lock ring curing time. It is a minimum of 10 minutes, but I can do stuff while I'm waiting on my lock rings to cure. Okay, I can go and work on the next one. I can go and make sure that I've got the right model and serial number. I can do a whole lot more than just sit on my hands whenever I'm doing this. Okay, so customer training and support, it's dedicated training system that's in place. In-depth lock ring theory. There's practice that happens, and then you get a certification slip. Okay, I talked to a guy, and he said that he wasn't sure about if he got the certification or not. I told him I didn't know. That's something that he actually had gone down to see Jesse down at the plant, and he said, I don't know. I didn't get a certificate. Well, I don't know what happened. He's going to have to go and talk to Jesse. If we do lock ring training at Encompass University, this one will not get you certified. You are unable to do the the hands-on training, and that has to be done for you to become certified. Okay, but if you do it through the Encompass University, I can go and check and make sure that you pass. And if you have passed, I can give you a certificate. Okay. Lockbox presentation. This is for you to show the customer. It also helps you so that you can look at it and quickly see what fitting I need to use. Okay. The hand assembly display case comes in this kit. Our hand assembly tool with the two different sets of jaws. You get a set of Lock Prep 65G. And you get samples for the Lokring demonstrations. So if I'm going to use this, I am going to, if I'm going to have people under me become certified, I probably want this test kit so that I can get them ready so that they can pass. Because I will tell everybody here, I am not ashamed to tell you, I did not pass the first time that I went. Okay. I told you, I'm an old school technician, okay? It's very difficult for me to come and do the modern ways. But I will tell you that I am never going to use anything but Lokring on R-600. I can't afford to. If you go out to YouTube and start searching, there's a YouTube video that GE produced where a refrigerator blows up. It was in a controlled environment, so it was good, but it didn't work out well. If it was a technician, it would have caused problems. I was talking to one of the technicians. I held a class over in where was that? Dallas. The guy they had a brand new technician, and he decided that he was going to use his torch because he was comfortable with a torch, and this Lokring stuff was a joke if you didn't really need it. Well, he showed me pictures of what their shop used to look like because they had 4 refrigerators right next to each other that the guy had released the R-600 out of, and as one of the old boys used to tell me about a firearm, do you understand the principle between a firearm? It's this principle of the gas. It's not the gas that kills you. It's the vapors. Okay. So you got to be very careful. Please just use Lokring on R-600. I'm telling you, once you get proficient at it, I'd rather use Lokring on it. There's a whole lot less to carry. It's a whole lot less bulky. I mean, I would use it. So I can go technical support information. What can I get from them? If you go to www.vulcan.com, okay, they have catalogs. They have all the brochures. They have videos that you can watch. There's the assembly video instruction. Then there's the technical documentation. Okay. So this would be the conclusion of this presentation. This is for Lokring versus brazing advantages. Lokring is suitable for any flammable refrigerant. Okay. It's customer-friendly on-site service at a reduced logistics cost. Okay. It's clean, fast, and reliable. Its assembly is possible in a high combustion area, even with heavy foot traffic and during business operations. Simple assembly without power connection. I will tell you that that is the only connection that I have to have is I have to be able to run my vacuum pump. Okay. There's no heavy brazing equipment. Okay. No brazing related quality problems. Okay. You can join the thousands of the Lokring users. Okay. That is going to conclude this part of the presentation. We still have the other parts of the presentation that we need to give. Okay. I'm going to exit the full screen. Okay. I have a GE washer that overflows water tub and leaks through the bottom. What could the problem be? You're going to have to see me at a different time. This is Lokring, and I've got to devote all of this time to Lokring. Okay, so my phone number and my email is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Either send me a text or send me an email, and I'll be happy to respond to your question. Okay. Anybody else have any questions related to Lokring? Okay. So give me just a second. There we go. Now, so one of the things that you're going to have with Lokring is I have to know what size my connectors are. If I don't know what size my connectors are, I can't do Lokring. Okay. I have to have the proper tools to be able to do the proper job. Okay. So the first thing that I have to do is I have to properly size. Okay. Once I have it, I have the proper sizing. I have to know what components I've got. Are they copper? Are they steel? Are they aluminum? What kind of reducers can I get? That'll be the next thing that I have to do is I have to know the proper material. So if you use the proper sizing, the proper material, and you use the proper Lokring, you're going to be fine. You should have a permanent leak-free condition. Okay. Now, like I said, my size range goes from 0.6 millimeters up to 10 millimeters. Okay. The millimeters should be used for the correct sizing. The correct size has to work. Okay. The fittings. I have couplings. I have reducers. So now I have to have my proper sizing, my proper materials. I have to have them within the proper size range. Then I have to have to know which fitting I need. So materials are either brass with steel or brass rings, aluminum with aluminum rings. We've already seen where it was an aluminum to copper, and we used an aluminum fitting. Okay. So if you look right here again, we've got copper to copper. We've got aluminum to aluminum. Then we've got copper to steel. Okay. Then we have the copper to aluminum. You see that's a different fitting. And then we have steel to steel. And those are, so basically we have copper to copper. We have copper to steel. And we have steel to steel. And all of those will use the brass fitting. If I'm going to use the aluminum fitting, I'm going to do aluminum to aluminum or copper to aluminum. Okay, so I have to have a set of calipers. They need to be digital calipers if I'm going to use it. Whenever I order the kit, it comes with a set of digital calipers. The first thing that I have got to do once I have got everything set and I have closed the jaws, okay, I turn the unit on and then I set it to 0. Okay. Once I set it to 0, okay, I'm ready to go. Okay. So if you look right here, the inside measures the face So this would be this would be your ID. Your inside diameter is the inside measuring face. That's the ID. Okay. The inside jaws. I never go anything at the very, push it all the way back to the very, right up against the jaws. Okay. It needs to be halfway out for the jaws. And if I measured a capillary tube, I'm going to use the very bottom, just the tip of these over here. Okay. So then we look at the caliper. We have the slider. Then we have the scale. We have the beam. Then we have the depth measuring faces. Okay. Our digital calipers, how do I set them? Like I said, we fully close them and close the slider if it's other than 0, 0. Press 0 set. I'm going to choose the millimeter by pressing the millimeter on the caliper. You have to make sure that you've done that. One of the guys was messing around and set it to the wrong setting. And so one of the guys didn't get his certification because the other guy before him ended up screwing everything up. Although he should have checked it. Okay. So once I've done all that, my caliper is ready to use. Okay. So once again, how am I gonna measure? I'm right at the, see how it's in the center. Okay. So I'm going to measure the center of the tubing, larger than the capillary tube. Okay. I'm going to use the thickness portion of the outside jaws. I'm going to measure at least 2 points, 180 degrees apart for the average sizing. Okay. I'm going to so I set like this says, unable to zero this jaw. See how far they push this in? It's not correct. You can't do that. Okay. Measure capillary tubing. This is where I was telling you have to go down to the very tip. It shows the tip right here that we're going to be measuring. So I'm measuring the capillary tube using this bottom portion of the outside jaws. The measure is at least 2 points, 180 degrees apart. Then I'm going to use the average for the sizing. I'm going to add the two together, divide them by 2, and that's my average. Okay. Once again, I do not measure anything out here on the very edge, on the very out, right next to where the caliper gauge is. Okay. I'm going to use right there in the center for the larger capillary for the larger tubes. You can, depending on what size the capillary tube is, you may need to use the you may need to come out to the side. None of the ones that we use in refrigerators, basic refrigerator or basic freezer, also use the small capillary tube. Okay. I'm going to measure the depth. Okay. I'm going to maintain the square. Okay. Notice right here how they've maintained the square with the object that they're trying to measure. My sizes on my capillary tubes: 1.6, 1.8, 2, 2.2, 2.5, 2.8. On most of your refrigerators that we see, just our basic, refrigerator, not a commercial brand, but a refrigerator, they're either a 1.8 or 2. That's usually what they are. Okay. And you have a tolerance of plus or minus 1 millimeter. I'm sorry, 1/100th of a millimeter. Okay. So my tubing size, they're between 3 millimeters and 11 millimeters, and they have a 0.5 minimum increments. So my tolerance is plus or minus 2. Okay. So 7.3 7.93 millimeters would the tube that's down below is showing 7.93. I'm going to use an 8 millimeter connector because I'm within that 0.5 millimeter increment. Okay. My exception. Okay. My 5 millimeter is my exception to the rule. My tolerances for a 5 millimeter are 4.6 to 5.2 millimeters. So this one is showing a 4.7 millimeter. So I'm going to use a 5 millimeter connector. Okay. 6 millimeter. My tolerance of a 6 millimeter tubing is 5.9 to 6.4 millimeters. If I have a 6.38, which this one is showing, I'm going to use a 6 millimeter connector because it falls within that 5.9 to 6.4, because it's 6.38, which is less than 6.4. So that makes sure that I have my my correct connector. So let's talk about materials and environments. So if I have steel rings on the evaporator, I have to use this heat string. Do you have to use one that says Vulcan Lokring? No. They're expensive. Brass rings on the evaporator. If you have a brass ring on the evaporator, and I'm piecing that together, it's not required that I have any kind of protection. But if I'm having copper to steel, if I have steel to aluminum, I've got to have this. If I have non-like metals, I need to have this this protector that's on it. I need my heat shrink protector. Okay. Okay. So here, how do I tell the parts? Okay. So my brass connectors, 8 is the tube size. NK means that it is a straight connector. MS is the type of material, and the 00 is the connector type. If it should all say 00 if you're working on a commercial on one of our refrigerators. Okay. The straight aluminum connector, once again, tubing size. Then I've got to connect what kind of connector is it? It's an NK, so that tells me it's a straight connector. The material is AL, okay, which stands for aluminum, and 00 is the connector type. Okay. If you have any questions, please stop me now and let me know, because with this one I can actually see your comments. Okay, so let's look at a reducer. Okay, so my straight brass reducing connector, my tubing size is 5 to 2. I'm sorry, 8/2. It's a reducing connector, which is an NR. Okay, my material is an MS. Okay, my connector type again is 00. Should be for every single one that we're talking about for today. Okay, my tubing size, if I have an aluminum connector, once again, it's at 8 to 2. It's what is it? Is an NR, which is a reducing connector. My material is AL for aluminum, and then my connector type, which is 00, which is what it's supposed to be. Okay. So after I've sized my connectors, you can see right here with aluminum. I will tell you that with your aluminum connector, make sure that you do it in a couple of places. I usually do it in like 3 different spots to make sure that I have my correct diameter of tubing. The last thing I want is for my tubing, my aluminum connector to leak because I used the wrong size connector. Okay. Once again, you notice it's an 80.1 and a 79.1. So what I can do is average those two sizes together, and that comes up to basically a 79 point. I think it's in 79.6. Half if you add those two together and take half of it. So that's what I would do. That I add my 80.1 and my 79.1. It should come to about a 79.6. So if we're talking about, once again, our capillary tube, my capillary tube is a 2.8. So that falls within, I told you that most of our capillary tubes are somewhere between 1.8 and 2.0. If you go back to our slide for capillary tubes, okay, right here, see there's a 2.2. So that is the size that I would be using. Oh, there's a 2.8. So I need to go back and I'm looking at my size. Oops, went one too far. And that says it's a 20.8. And we know that those were with that's a 2.08, which would be a 2 connector. Okay. And then my copper is a 6.36, which falls within that range of within our range for the 6 millimeter. So we're all set. Okay. For my copper, if I have my 7.93 to my 7.90, what kind of fitting am I going to use? Okay. If I go back over here, okay. Oops, I missed it. I apologize. All right. All right. So, again, our aluminum to aluminum, 4.38, 2.23. So we would use our 4s. 4.95 to a 6.4. That would be, we would be using our 4.9 to a, that would be a 5 to a 6.5. Okay. So I'm probably going to use a reducer. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. We're going to go real quickly through. I've got two other pre-assembly. Here it is, servicing. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that we talked about today was servicing your assembly tool. You have to keep these clean. If you don't, you have problems. Okay. So our pre-assembly tool, this is your part numbers. So you may want to have these handy. This presentation will be available on YouTube by tomorrow this time. So you may want to keep this so that you've got these to be able to go through if you don't have them now. Okay. The pre-assembly best practices. Okay. You can see right here. This is the normal way that the slide that's 4 in. This is the normal way that you're going to load your I call it loading. I'm going to load my jaws. That way I'm ready to go. And then I can pop it off and it comes right together and I can pull it together. Once again, this is all the basics that we've already been through in the first presentation. So this is kind of repetitive. What I want you to get to is this next one right here. Okay. Oops, and I don't have it all together. Okay. This is what you have to do with your HMR kV assembly tool. Okay. I can use WD, the multi-purpose lubricant 3-in-1, small flat tip screwdriver, a scribe, a wire brush, acetone, WD-40, and then of course the ring. I got something to clean it with. Okay, so this is my exterior lubrication points. This I need to do this lubrication about every month, depending on how many I'm doing. Okay, so this is the point that I'm going to do. If you notice, it's looking on one side and then looking at the other. So these are all the points that I want to lubricate. Okay, so then I'm going to go to my interior lower handle, and I'm going to lubricate the chain on it. This is nothing more than a chain on a bicycle. You have to lubricate it, just like you have to lubricate a bicycle chain. Okay. I also have to my two thumb depressors. I have to lubricate those also. If not, they'll start to stick. Okay. The one that I got, somebody had used. We ended up having to do this assembly jaws cleaning because the people that used it didn't follow the correct procedure on how many drops to use. If you put too many drops on it, if you look right there at the very first slide, the second slide in, okay, the first one is where you have to take the jaw out. Okay, then once I do that, I'm going to look up. That's exactly where I'm going to look. If I see that, I'm going to have my scratch all and my little brush and probably my cleaner, some acetone, and I've got to do all that to clean all of this out. If I use the proper amount of the Loctite, I don't have any problems. Okay, but this one, we actually had to do this because the last people that used it put way too much on, and it was nothing but a nightmare. One of the things, if I have a couple of sets of jaws, you can buy these jaws separate also. Okay, if I have a couple of sets of jaws, what I can do is drop them in a little acetone and let them soak overnight. That helps. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? This actually concludes our presentation today.